what communities are you part of at the moment that help you in your business?
So I'm part of the Fintrepreneur community, which is fantastic, with all these other fantastic women who come and do these wonderful things with me. I'm also part of a community called the Divas. Some of them are in the room because I get asked often to be a mentor to somebody. I'm like, I've got such limited bandwidth, but I now have 10, and then we get together and we do some other stuff. I'm also part of the Virgin Atlantic Ellis Lane community.
Okay.
Yes, because I go there at 4:30 in the morning because I can wear whatever the ish I want and get my work done.
Yeah.
And I'm also part of this community, a community of mad people who do wonderful things.
Good. Thank you.
I'm obsessed with you. And the reason I am is you've always been that person who's been brave to step out of what's been, especially within African communities, what is expected of a woman. And you found your own path. You weren't, for instance, the obvious creative in terms of being maybe a jazz musician or an actress, or you found your own path within the creative sphere. How did you find that one word in terms of saying I'm an influencer? Because I know a lot of people are still struggling with it. It takes you, some people are 30, 40, 50, and you literally say, I've got 5 things that I really love. How do you really know this is it? And how can that it become a career or a pathway for you?
Okay. So I didn't wake up and understand that my word would be influence, right? In my 30s, I had to reflect on my collective body of work. I'd had an opportunity to work as South Africa's first black-owned and black-managed ad agency. I'd had an opportunity to work with clients who were incredibly unkind. Like I had a white gentleman once walk into the office and say he wants to see the boss. When I walked out, he looked at me and he yelled at the receptionist and he said, I said I want to see the boss. So I've had opportunity to deal with prejudice. I've had opportunity to deal with people who walk into a boardroom and I make them tea because there's tea to be made in your guests. And when we sit down and I introduce myself as the deputy MD, the first question is, so why did you make the tea? So I've had occasion to deal with people whose prejudice was visited upon me. And my reaction in those instances is part of this muscle I grew over time. And I knew that if I wasn't doing this thing, which is disrupting people's understanding of what the consumer who's black looks like, dreams of, and hopes for, then I wouldn't have done a good job of living my life. So for me, it was just about saying, how do I make the world see my people the way I know them? How do I make the world celebrate my people the way I know and love them? And that is how I settled on the path. And that's what's been helpful for me. Are you answered? Okay.
Thanks very much for the talk. It was very inspiring. I just wanted to know how you make choices about which communities you're going to work with, and I'm sure there must be resistance to new ideas. At which point do you say, look, this isn't going to work, or like, I'm going to make this work, like recruit people onto your idea or not? How do you, what do you look for to see, like, I can just see this as irreconcilable, or this is just resistance, and, where do you draw the line with, like, your enthusiasm to make something work, and, like, how much other people are coming to the party?
Fantastic. I understand your question. So let's give you an example of a client who said to us, I've just come out of curatorship. I'm a financial services brand, and I want you to help me reframe my new positioning in the new era. And the first thing I said to them is, what are the things that made you unique in the past? They went X, Y, Z, and and then I said, but those things are no longer helpful because your future requires you to behave differently. Right? So for me, a decision point is when you ask me to help and you receive my help. You ask me to help and you don't second guess me. Because if you're second guessing me, then it means one of two things. One, you are not ready for my help, or two, you are insulting my intelligence. Either way, there are other people who could benefit from my joy and my talent. I leave you, I wish you well, I snog you if you're good looking. I'm kidding. But I really do. I wish you well and I leave. Because here's what happens. When you spend time trying to convince people, you start to doubt your own gift. And that's never okay. I don't have to convince you, I have to bring you along on the journey. If you see what I see, which is I am going to apply my creative talent to solve know this thing that's keeping you up at night, then happiness. But if you don't see it, I'll thank you for having considered me and I'll wish you well. But here's what I do. When I leave, I don't bang the door. I wish you continued success. Because here's what happens when you leave with good manners, is that when he or she finally understands what you were trying to teach them 9 years ago, they're going to come calling back. At which point, don't say, yeah, 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 yeah. Just double your billings and keep it moving. Okay, so the question is, what was I doing in my 20s? In my 20s, I met a good-looking guy. He's the first guy I snogged who also became my first husband. So I didn't go partying, I didn't go clubbing, I didn't jump out windows. I mean, he was very serious, he spoke big words. So very quickly I had to learn big words. Yeah, I was very tidy, I put it all together. But also in my 20s, I was plotting. I was reading a lot. I was presented with feminist writing. So the first book I read was a book called My Mother, Myself, because my mother and I have always had a relationship with wrinkles. This is what happens when both of you are passionate. And understanding her and the bits of me that frustrate me about her are actually the same bits that I've got. I mean, hello. So that, and then being introduced to the work of Maya Angelou and bell hooks. So I spent my early 20s just finding a voice and being okay with the term feminist, because I understood it as it's supposed to be understood, which is not anti-man, but pro-women in a way that is without shame.
What I'm about to say is not really a question, it's more of an observation. That you are applying the principles of self-actualization to branding and advertising, or creativity rather. Like when you spoke about finding purpose and just having a clear understanding of what you want to do, these are things that I've observed in my journey of self-actualization, and you're making them apply to creativity. So yeah, there you go.
Thank you. And you know what it is? It's because I didn't study, so let's be clear, I didn't go to creative schools, I didn't go to Vega, I didn't go to the AAA. I'm a sociologist. And studying sociology for me was about understanding how communities connect. And then applying it to advertising was about understanding how we attach value to brands, and therefore how then can I apply. So I did come at creativity from the left field. And I always say to people, if your daughters or sons are confused about what to study, please encourage them to do either the liberal sciences, either sociology, psychology, or anthropology or philosophy, and then they can do economics and whatever other funky things you think they want to do. But for me, understanding humanity enriched my ability to connect, because I don't create for consumers, I create for humans, because we're humans all of the time and we're consumers some of the time, right?
How do you foster a culture of trust? Because I think I spend a lot of time in creative communities and we all share like similar purpose and we all have fantastic ideas, but there's this like hiding and hogging of idea culture, which isn't moving us forward. Like we're all fabulous, we all have wonderful ideas and we're not collaborating. And you go to other cities in the world, Berlin, wherever else, and people just collaborate. Like, oh, how did this project start? Oh, we met at a coffee shop and we just did it. And like nobody said, oh, it's my idea, I'm not telling anyone.
There are several things at play here. So one is the scarcity mentality, right? And it applies either to us as black people, because we didn't have enough. So when I get to the buffet, I take everything and the scone sits on top of the custard and the jelly all at the same time, right? Because you don't know whether there'll be enough when you go back. So that's the one thing, which is a historical thing. The second one is the scarcity in this creative sector, because we still aren't transformed. There still aren't enough of people who look like me, or people who sound like me, or people who are just crazy enough to say the shit that I say and not worrying too much because we're not causing offense. But here's what happens with trust. You have to give it. When you give it, you pass the responsibility on to me to earn it and live up to it. And I think maybe we get it wrong because we think you must earn my trust. No, I give it to you. Because when you let me down, you're going to feel like ish. So the cousin who doesn't pay me back, she doesn't come to weddings now. Because she knows. But I gave her. So I'm suggesting that we give. The second one, I'm suggesting that the world gets smaller when smart, compassionate people collaborate. Because I can't lift a boulder on my own. And I should stop trying.